Well, howdy everyone. Today I want to talk to you about how to grow sweet potatoes in containers, hydroponically, and in a small closet grow room. And I want to talk about the setup today. And so this is about a 3 by 6 closet, and as you can see, we've got sweet potatoes growing in here, and they're doing quite well. Spreading and starting to climb up this bit of trellis netting I put up here. So I want to go over what goes into making a setup like this. So I think we'll start up on top, and I hope this will get picked up so you can see it. But you got to start out with a good light. Now this is an HLG 650R. It's really way oversized for this closet, so I keep it up high and I have it dimmed down. And the other thing you'll probably notice is the inside of the closet is covered in panda film, which will reflect the light back to the plants. And then starting from top to bottom, over here, this is an air filter. It's a carbon scrubber. Now you don't really need one if you're growing vegetables, but that's not what I was originally growing in here, so I have it and I'm using it. So then this is kind of an oddball hookup, but it goes through some flexible tubing. It goes into this bullet fan here, and then up and through the ceiling where it can vent out. I also have in here, I have a CO2 monitor, although I'm not running CO2 in here, so it still gives me a good idea of what the CO2 levels are. And on this wall here, this is a remote sensor that goes into my reservoir, and it gives me a reading of the pH and the parts per million and the soil temperature. I don't use it much because I use a handheld meter most of the time, but it's kind of good for a quick glance. And anyway, so that's there. Everything in here is run on a timer. So here's a timer that I use to time my watering, and then here's a timer that I use for my light. What we have down here, this is called a variac or variac. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. What it does, it controls the fan speed. I can shut it off, or I can turn it back on, and you should be able to hear the difference. Now this is an older fan, and when I bought it, it was kind of state-of-the-art, but nowadays you can get a fan from AC Infinity that has that feature built in. This little deal here actually cost about $100, and with a modern fan you don't need it at all. The other thing I have in here is I have tower fans. Now I have this one pointed at the wall, and then I have this one over here pointed kind of up across the wall, and what they do is they kind of create a circular airflow, because you don't really want to beat the plants up with a fan. You can see, you know, that the leaves are moving some, but overall it's pretty calm, yet they're still getting good airflow. So to get into the heart of this, This all sits in a 2x4 flood tray, and if you're thinking about buying one, even though they call it 2x4, it's bigger than that. It's 2x4 inside, so if you were to try to put this in a 2x4 grow tent, it would not fit. You'd need one that was 3 feet wide probably. So how this works, you can see I have 2 manifolds here, and each manifold has drip lines coming out of it, and then the drip lines go to these 5-gallon pots full of coco coir, and I use open-ended drippers because that way I don't have to worry about clogging. And what happens to go through this, in here I have a reservoir full of nutrient solution. You can probably see this white hose. That is from the pump, and it connects to this manifold. So what happens is the pump is on a timer. It goes on, it pumps water to these manifolds. The manifolds distribute the water through the tubing, and this here is the tubing I use. It's Floraflex tubing, and the thing about it that's really good, it's really flexible, so it's easy to use, because the old-fashioned black tubing, way too rigid for a system like this, very hard to bend, and just doesn't work well. So what I do is I set the timer. Right now I believe I have it set to run for 3 minutes, twice or 2 or 3 times a day, and the cocoa stays moist, but it doesn't get overly wet. I also have a few dahlia plants in here. I'm waiting to get them into another closet, but for now they're just living here. And that makes it kind of hard to see some of this. You'll notice down here I've got this waffle grid, and the reason for that is I want my buckets to drain completely. This gives them some air space underneath. I have drain holes in the bottom of the buckets, but I didn't want them sitting flat on the bed of the flood tray. So the flood tray itself is actually propped up by 2 of these 27-gallon totes, one on each end, and then I use the underneath for storage. Some people build a stand. I just use 2 totes, and I spread them apart in the closet, and then this sets right on it. And the way it's set up, you can't see it from here, but there is a drain, and I don't think I can show it to you. Anyway, what happens is there's a drain in here that goes directly back into the reservoir, so it falls like a waterfall, and when the pump shuts off, any water in the bottom drains back, and that's how that works. So overall, it's a pretty easy system to run. All you really have to do is monitor the level of water in your reservoir and make sure the nutrients are right. And if you watch one of my earlier videos, you can see I had some leaves like this one here with some spotting, which was a sign of a calcium deficiency. So I wound up upping my nutrient solution. I wanted to start these off slow and give them a chance to root in, and I started them a little too slow. The beauty of hydroponics is things grow really fast. The downside is stuff can happen really fast, so you really have to know what you're doing. It's trial and error when you're growing a new plant. I grew cannabis in here for years, and I had that down to a science, but I never grew sweet potatoes before, so I didn't know exactly, you know, how they would react, and I decided to go on the slow side, and they could have actually started out with more nutrients, but you know, I wanted to go easy because the slips I planted in here didn't have a lot of roots, and I didn't want to burn them or anything. So this is a pretty good idea of a closet that you could build if you have one. If you don't have one, you could do the same thing in a grow tent. You know, you basically need a way to enclose your light, because you don't want that, you know, glaring out into your living room or anything like that. A closet works, a grow tent works, and you can grow just about anything that you could grow in soil. You could grow indoors in hydroponics. Coco coir is my preferred medium, but I do grow plants in just grow stones, or you know, grow stones with a plant started in coco. So it's a pretty versatile system. You can grow just about anything you want, and it's pretty much automated. All you have to do is keep your eye on the reservoir and your nutrient strength, and the fans take care of the temperature. You don't want it too hot, you know, I mean, and all lights do give off heat, even LEDs. You know, 600 watts is 600 watts. It doesn't matter whether it's coming from an LED or an HPS light. The only real difference is most of these HID lights, like what do you call it, HPS or that, what's the other one, the blue one. Anyway, they give off heat, and they give off infrared, which warms the surfaces. LEDs don't do that, so you generally run them at a higher temperature. Metal halide, that's what I was thinking of. But ideally, for most plants, you want to go for a leaf surface temperature of about 80 degrees. That allows for maximum photosynthesis without, you know, heat stressing the plants. If you were running HPS, you'd want to be about 10 degrees lower, but not many people run HPS in their homes. They're expensive to run, and an LED will give you just as much light with half the electricity, and it's actually a more balanced light for growing. So if you are going to choose an LED, you want one with white light. You don't want that orange HPS light. That's good for flowering, not good for much else. Your plants will grow, but they'll get very leggy. So LED is the way to go for lighting. I like HLG. They're expensive as all hell, but I also use Spider Farmer for vegetables in my kitchen, and it's a lot cheaper, and they work really well. So now you might be wondering why I chose to grow sweet potatoes in here. Well, I really like sweet potatoes, and I grow indoors because I live in Western Washington. We have really cool temperatures in the summer. Sweet potatoes really need a lot of heat, and we just don't have it here. It's a struggle to get tomatoes off. So the only way I can grow them is indoors, and I felt like using a closet because I knew they were going to vine, and these are going to be in here for probably 4 or 5, maybe even 6 months. So there's going to be a lot more vines, and if I had them in my house, like in my living room, I'd be tripping over vines. So that's why I decided that the best way for me to grow sweet potatoes was in a closet. And if you're in an area you know, where you have bad summer weather or too cool or something like that, a closet is a great place to grow tomatoes, peppers, like I said before, just about anything you want to grow outdoors. You can grow indoors hydroponically, get a crop faster, probably get a higher yield, because you're not dealing with all the outside bugs and pests. So yeah, if you're thinking about growing stuff indoors, I really recommend hydroponics and a setup like this, either in a closet or in a grow tent, and you will be happy with the results. Anyhow, I hope this was helpful, and take good care of yourselves. Happy gardening, and keep it green. All right, I'll see everyone later. Bye-bye.